We'd like to dedicate this episode to Luke. Thank you for a year's sponsorship on Patreon. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke.
Yes, thank you so much. Seriously, hey, we all appreciate it.
Yule sent us a text message within a few hours of recording the last episode. He had gone on and he'd started reading. What did you text us, Yule?
Shed is the worst.
Yeah. And then I read the chapters that we're covering today, which, by the way, are chapters 19 to 25. And I had to agree, Shed is literally the worst.
Last episode, it felt like he was showing some backbone.
And promise.
It felt like he was growing as a man, but no, it just is offering him temptation that he shouldn't be. It's just the worst.
He's the worst. He's absolutely the worst.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to Sci-Fi and Fantasy Read Along. This is episode 4 of Shadows Linger, chapter 19, Juniper, Fear. Raven busts into the lily, terrified.
Yeah, he knows that his former mates are in town and they're looking for him, right?
He got wind of them somehow. I don't know how he noticed them, but he did.
He was going to the Rebels meeting. Yeah.
Oh, the Crater crew, right. Luckily, he was late to the meeting.
And he saw Goblin and everybody there.
Shed is trying to calm him down. He's being irrational. He's terrified. He thinks they're out to get him. And Shed actually talks him down. Be rational. I'm the coward.
I know. This was a role reversal. For a minute, it was a role reversal.
Yeah.
Where Raven, who thought he was probably in safe land, finds out that he's not safe and thinks that the company is there hunting him and Darling.
Right.
And Shed, of course, is ambivalent. He's like, nothing would make him happier than have Raven disappear at this point.
Well, Shed doesn't know anything about the Black Company or any of the people they're talking about, but he's overhearing the hand-signed conversation that's going on between Raven and Darling. And Darling's like, no, Croaker is your friend. So she helps him somewhat come back to a rational frame of mind. And true to form, Raven ponders for a minute after having that first glass of wine, and he says, you're right. It's a coincidence. They're here for something else. But nevertheless, you need to pack. We've got to go. And Shed's like, you can't go anywhere. The harbor's still frozen. So they wonder why would the Black Company be here? And Darling signs the Black Castle.
Wasn't Darling earlier just like admonishing Raven or giving him, the stink eye for taking bodies up to the castle?
That information was given to us before we knew what was going on. It was when Raven came to Shed and said, hey, we could solve your problems. That dead body could. We never got to overhear what she said. Just it seemed like she was admonishing him.
But she knew something was up, and she was giving him, a lecture.
All right, so Raven takes this opportunity to call in his favor from Shed. He says, find out what you can about what's going on in Duratil. He tells Darling to pack and that they have to disappear. And Shed's like, I need Darling at the Lily.
Who's going to help? I can't let her go.
Obviously, he doesn't want to let her go.
There is a key moment when Raven says that they want Darling more than they want me. And you paid attention to this.
She's just a kid.
Yeah, exactly. We've supposed Darling's age, but we kind of felt Darling's probably older than a young girl anymore.
Well, she's not 9. She's not a baby.
But nonetheless, in an instance where someone is threatening her life or she has to run from something, Shed, who lasciviously looked at her, now is commenting that she's still just a kid. I'm assuming it's like, how could she have gotten in any trouble over the course of a small amount of life?
Why would some foreign military unit be coming here looking for Darling?
She's just a kid. Of course, when you're old, when you get older, everybody's a kid.
Everybody's a kid that's under
true.
40. I know.
Yeah.
I love it.
I still say that to young adults. I still say it.
You're just a kid.
And they say that you're just an old man.
We're both accurate, in my opinion.
We're definitely getting old. We're achieving strong middle age.
That's true. My body isn't what it used to be, but I feel I'm still easing into my prime.
You've been in neutral for a long time, buddy.
Yeah. All right, so Darling goes and gets her meager possessions, and that ends this first chapter.
I think I was entertained by one part where Shed had no idea what the Taken were, and he's like, what are the Taken? And Raven responds, if you have gods, Shed, pray you never find out. He said, you need to get out of Juniper. And Shed says, no, I need to take care of my mother, which, I gotta hand it to Shed. At least he's loyal to his mother, and that's probably the only...
No, he's not.
This is his last good chapter.
I disagree 100% that he is in any capacity good to his mother.
Well, he has done everything and sacrificed everything and always has her first in his thoughts. Probably because...
It's a ball and chain also. He uses it as an excuse for not doing something. She gives him a reason to rationalize all the horrible things he's been doing.
You know, that I never looked at it that way, but I think you're right.
Well, I don't think he's necessarily bad when it comes to her.
We'll get to a chapter pretty soon, and we can revisit this topic then, because he changes through the course of time.
He sure does. And like I said, Shed's the biggest piece of shed there is out there. But when concerning his mother, I don't feel like it's quite that bad.
Chapter 20, Juniper, Shadow Talk. The Black Company have lost Raven. Even
He's
Goblin
gone.
cannot find him. The rebel prisoners that were interrogated by the Taken, Whisper, and Feather gave up no information about him. So Raven was not using his real name when he was dealing with the people who were captured in our last episode.
Correct.
It's strange that he wasn't, because he's been using he's been using the name Raven. It's not his real name. Nobody knows his real name. Maybe the captain knows his real name, but nobody else would.
In the first book, they used to spend like a bunch of time alone, the captain and Raven, didn't they?
They were buddies. Yeah, and Croker figures that the captain might be a little disappointed when he finds out what Raven's been up to here in Juniper. And mind you, he's on his way, the captain is. We get backstory about Raven. We find out that he was once a man of means in Opal, probably from Opal, which we had speculated about anyway. And we're reminded that the Limper used Raven's wife and her lovers to steal Raven's titles and privileges. After we learn this, Whisper summons Croker to debrief, essentially.
Yeah, and of course Croker is scared every time he has to
Of course.
talk to a Taken or the lady or whoever.
I wonder if they have the same means that the lady has. I don't think they can just read his mind, but like Soulcatcher, we had questions about Soulcatcher's abilities, and
Right.
there's some reason to worry. I know Whisper's extremely smart. I know she's going to be able to figure certain things out, but... So what are the results of the interrogation? Because they interrogated the Crater crew in the last episode that we did.
Well, initially, they didn't get a whole lot of information.
Nothing about Raven.
Nothing about Raven. Well, that's what Croker is interested in, obviously.
Firstly, yes.
The rest of the Black Company, especially Croker and the people that know about the White Rose, don't want the lady getting any hint of that, or else they're doomed.
Mm-hmm.
Two of the people that were captured, that they actually were in the process, or have been in the process in the past, of selling bodies to the Black Castle, which confirms the suspicion that was kind of hemmed and hawed out in our last chapter with the Duke, was whether or not bodies were being sold there. They didn't want to really let the company know. Well, now the company knows that people were selling them, but it couldn't have been these guys that were feeding the Black Castle, so there has to be somebody that was doing it, much more extensively.
Somewhere in Juniper, a man is feeding the Black Castle, and the lady wants this person. The lady's nervous, and she wants that person in particular. And Croker has the temerity to ask, well, why? Why? Like a child.
Well, I mean, he is the historian.
I think they give him a lot of leeway, given that he's the historian. But
Right.
it's good for us, and it's information that we want, obviously, so it's good for the story. But why?
Well, he does outrank even Elmo.
Yeah, but he's talking to Whisper. He's not talking to Elmo. He doesn't outrank Whisper.
No, of course not.
So why?
Because the Black Castle has some sort of connection to, or has roots in the Barrowland.
Which we didn't know, but we inferred from, yeah, sure. This is the Dominator's escape hole.
So his escape plan from his being buried in the ground is to pop up over here.
Yeah, he foresaw the White Rose was going to take him down, but he didn't foresee the lady betraying him. And this has apparently taken a lot longer than he expected.
Unfortunately, it sounded like he didn't realize that they revered the dead here and it would be harder to be resurrected.
Nobody's going to be bringing him bodies.
Oh, that's hilarious, too. I mean, wasn't that great irony? The
None of the
reason why
locals.
he couldn't come back. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I need some dead people here to make this happen, and ain't nobody getting rid of dead people until Raven shows up.
Do you remember we asked, I think 2 episodes ago, Philip asked it. He's like, how do you get into this business of selling bodies to the Black Castle? Like, how do you figure out that that's even a job that you can have? And now I'm wondering, is the Dominator telling the rebels that fled here, bring me bodies? Like, is he influencing them that directly?
Just to try to put multiple things together here, there were the resurrectionists. So I think it was like a cult dedicated to the Dominator, and apparently they're still around.
No, the lady, it was told to us, chapter 3 or 4, that the lady cut them off the tree, destroyed the root, killed the branch. Like, they're all gone.
Oh, I thought they were still here. And maybe some of them are, but that's kind of what I thought is, and maybe that's still true, that because she didn't know about this place or this black rock or this escape hole. So maybe some of the cult came here and they whisper to people, especially the desperate people of the Buskin.
Well, the people that are selling the bodies are the rebel.
Yeah, that's because nobody actually from this town
Would do that.
peddles dead bodies, and that's why it took like 300 or 400 years for this thing to start growing and developing. It had to wait for the rebel.
Well, we're told that the portal has been fed vast amounts of what it wants, and it's very close to opening, and they need to find this person pretty much now. Chapter 21, Juniper.
Raven departed as soon as the channel was open. As soon as he was capable of getting out, he got out. And Shed saw that Raven had manufactured at great expense the largest ship Shed had ever seen in the harbor. And I don't know how much money it took to do that, or money/body ratio it took to do that, but apparently quite a bit. And you gotta wonder, like, and the crew.
Yeah.
And he has a crew. Yeah, exactly.
And a full crew for that. I'm like, why?
Dude, he's in a pirate Raven, man.
Remember, he had gotten as far from the lady as he could without learning how to walk on water.
I thought about that too. Now he doesn't have to worry about where he goes or how he goes or paying for fare.
Anywhere he wants. And the Dominator paid for it.
And one last time, let's not forget, he said, hey, Shed, come along.
He did.
And Shed said no. I mean, I know that's like last time we saw Shed, but...
Asa was smart enough to get out of town.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm telling you, Shed just wouldn't leave his mother. I still believe he loves his mother, even though his mother keeps giving him the stink eye. And the next section proves it.
Okay, so he cannot handle his prosperity. This is relatively well explained to us. He's spending more money than he can afford to spend. He's bought a cottage for his mother. He's installed her with a staff of 3, and she is now out of his hair, out of his sight. He no longer feels her evil stare.
But come on,
evil
it's
blind
his conscience.
stare on top of it.
Yeah, blind justice, though, right?
Well, she knows what's going on. She tripped over a dead body.
Well, she found the body and then heard Raven say, hey, this can solve all your problems.
Right.
And Shed didn't say, no, Raven, that's terrible. Get out of my place. He said, yes, absolutely. Let's talk about this downstairs where my mother can't hear us. Shed is a little bit concerned about money, so he goes to his box to get some. It's not empty. It's just really, really low.
No, his personal box was empty.
Yeah, the upstairs box is empty.
Which made him go to the other one? Is that what happened?
He went to the store box. So his money is gone in the upstairs box, which is, the ill-gotten money, so to speak. And he's like, damn, I've been spending it too much on, like you said, horrors and finery and
ridiculous,
making himself look well-to-do than he is.
New money. Am I right?
He's all, well, you know what? I'm going to have to make some, but at least I've got the change box, and everything's paid for. Like, the wine and the food and this and the that. And so he goes down to see how much he has, and then he has nothing. Zero.
He's like, hey, Wally,
which is his cousin's husband, and he's like, Wally, and Wally runs.
Bolts?
He goes. He's out,
bolts.
right out the door. He was waiting for it. I don't even know why he came in that day.
I wonder if he's guilty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, really. Yeah, dude. Hey, Wally, I wanted to say good job. Whoops, he's out the door.
So Shed's like, that little, SOB.
Well, he did have some money. I don't know where it came from, but he had enough money that he went to all of his distributors and suppliers, and he made sure to pay them.
Right.
Then he waited for 2 days for Wally to show up back at his house, and he showed up and kicked in the door of the apartment and accosted
Dude, he was
Wally.
hardcore to him.
I know. It was kind of amazing to see.
This is, again, the transformation of Shed, a guy that wouldn't stand up for himself in any way and is now, well, it's pretty justified at this moment, everything
I'd be
he
mad.
does.
Yeah,
I'd be mad. Kicking in the door and saying, where's the money and all this stuff. And Wally's being like, I had to do it because of my kids. They're wearing any clothes, which are actually just wearing rags right now.
Yeah.
And Shed's not having any of it. And dude falls down the steps, and then Shed pushes him down another thing of steps. And it was right then and there, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to kill him right here. It's going to be an accident.
And then he kicks him in the nuts.
Oh my God, yeah. He's like hounding this guy across, town to his inn. He takes him back in the back, starts beating him up more.
Your kids are still wearing rags. He's like, you didn't spend the money on that. And so Wally comes clean and says, I was in debt from gambling, and they tricked me. They made me think I was going to win, and I didn't win. They took all my money, and now I'm in debt to Gilbert. And
who in the world is going to believe the guy you're gambling against? Oh, yeah, you've got this in the bag. You're absolutely going to win. Here's all of our money. What a dingling. I think this guy might not be that bright.
He doesn't sound very bright, does he?
It doesn't matter, because old Shed, he picks up, he takes a plank off of a crate or something, and he beats Wally to death.
Well, to be fair, it was an accidental death as a result of a severe beating. No, Shed wasn't trying to kill him.
He wasn't. You're right. You are 100% right. He was not trying to kill him.
It's a very fine line.
He knew he was beating up a guy that couldn't get his money back. But when he heard that Gilbert's name was involved, I think that's when he super snapped.
Why?
Well, Gilbert's the new Craig. In fact, there's a moment where he reminisces that he may be worse than Craig.
Cut from the same cloth, certainly.
Craig was just the guy that he owed the most money to. But when Craig was going and buying up all his debts before to make a move on the Lily, that's when, Shed got pushed. Well, Shed got pushed again right now, and he kills Wally.
He does, and immediately he thinks, oh, geez, I got to hide this body.
Well, you can't leave a dead body lying around.
No, I want to say that it was immediate that he was like, we got to get this hidden or somebody's going to crate it off.
I thought he meant the wood.
I don't think so.
Oh, you think
he meant the body? Yeah, I think he meant the body. Like, I'm sure in this weather, the custodians will just come out and take the body away,
Right.
And then, of course, all of the other people that come along with it, not the police, as it were.
Oh, I didn't think about that. I thought they meant the wood. I think you're probably right. It's not the wood they were going to steal. No, it was the wood, wasn't it?
I know what you're talking about, but I can't imagine why he would have to hide the wood.
Oh, because it was the spare wood that was just lying around outside, and I thought he was thinking at the time, I need to take this inside before somebody hauls it off.
Maybe it was the wood, and he was just that blasé about killing a guy.
And then, because he hid him underneath the wood, too.
I gotta hide this wood. Somebody's gonna steal it. All right, so after dark, he collects the wagon and the team that Raven left him, and he gets into a little argument with the guy who hasn't been feeding the mules or the horses or whatever they are, but it's Shed's fault. It's not his fault.
Yeah, he tries to blame him, and he's like, what, I'm supposed to feed him out of my own pocket?
And the next thing we know, he's up at the Black Gate to the Black Castle and banging on the door.
As he's going up the trail to get to the Black Castle, I just want to read this part. He spent the journey alternately being terrified and wondering how much Wally would bring. And it's like he's going from I'm scared to reveling in the fact that he's going to be making some money off this body.
Well, he just lost a bunch of money off of Wally, so maybe he can get his money back by selling Wally.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to get quite as much. Nevertheless, he says that the castle does not seem to have grown since the last time he was here. And that makes a little bit of sense because Raven said he was done. He had the money, and obviously he's gone, so Raven's no longer feeding the thing.
And the rebel bunch got nabbed, so
they got busted. Exactly.
Nobody's selling.
Shed does exactly what Raven had done. He pulls the wagon into the same place, offloads the body onto a slab, and then out comes this new creature. It's short, and it's wide, and it's full of contempt. Doesn't even look at Shed.
Basically just gives him, 30?
25, lowball offer.
Shed doesn't say a thing. He gets in his cart. Just as he's driving off, he says, that was a prime corpse, like, freshly bled. Next time you do better, or you don't get anything next time. It's like, this is the Shed, what he's become.
He's still a coward. He's like the guy that's in his car driving away and giving you the bird.
No, I think Shed's playing the long game. Like, I think he's already put together that he's now the only one selling the bodies, and they desperately want bodies. So he's like, next time, you better do better.
In addition to that, I think Shed has now come to the realization that he is going to do it again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because he admits it right there. He said, next time, do better.
Next time. Good catch, Yule.
When he's leaving and he's going down the hill, he sang.
Yeah, he's so happy.
He felt great.
Yep.
Except for the fading guilt of what he did to Wally. The fading guilt.
Yeah. He never
And
liked
this is
Wally
where I
anyway.
was like, Shed is the worst.
Shed is the worst.
I mean, this is not good, don't get me wrong, but I think everybody does that when they've done something wrong that they shouldn't have done, but every day that goes by, you think about it less and less because you...
Mm-hmm.
It's not every day. This is later on after he disposed of the body.
But this is somebody he knew.
If
And
your
he's gotten
soul
away with
can go to another place, depending on how much coinage is attached to you, he is dooming this person.
You remember Craig screamed?
Yeah, but Craig was alive, so I would say at least Wally's dead. But what internal damnation are they being treated to in this castle?
You know how everybody was mocking this death cult where they revere the dead in like 1,000 years there was going to be like the great passage or something? That actually gives their religion merit to say that some part of you, some essence of you lives on long after death. And it is a useful resource to apparently necromancers and near deific dominators.
The next day, representative of the precinct magistrate shows up at the Iron Lily asking after Wally, because obviously Wally's wife reported the fight that Shed and he had in their apartment to the magistrate.
And Wally's gone.
And Shed's really cool about this also.
He's a fantastic liar, yeah.
He lied really well on the rooftops, straight to Craig's face, and he's liking doing it too.
This is a skill set you learn by either being
practicing
a disreputable merchant or a bartender.
Well, he tells the magistrate that he just did he fought him, he beat him up, and the guy ran off, and he hasn't seen him since. He just can't believe that he would do this to family. And the magistrate's like, oh, we see this all the time. They get up to their ears in debt. They stop thinking about tomorrow.
He's explaining who Shed is to Shed.
And Shed knows it, but he has quickly forgotten.
Yeah, but the magistrate's like, well, do you want to file a report against your cousin? And he's like, nah, he's family. Fine, I'll do it. Just don't hang him.
Shed is really good at this. Oh, another thing that he does that's really cool is that he tells the story so that it makes him look like a really good guy. He even gets the magistrate to say something like, I think I'd break his back if I could.
He says he would break his dad's back if his dad had done this to him. It was 50 leva. That's what he told him, is he stole 50 leva. That is an insane amount of money.
I think he said in the beginning it was near 100, and then he lowered it to 50 also. It's like weird sorts of ways that he goes about shading the lie or the truth.
That's 2.5 years of income for him that this guy stole.
Shed knows that he's going to have no problem with this magistrate because the guy says, you don't worry about tomorrow. We see it all the time. And I love that line. I thought that was really good.
What do you think that means? Because I think I interpreted that differently than you did.
Oh, the way I looked at it is like, you don't worry about tomorrow. We're not going to be bothering you with this thing at all going forward.
I interpreted it to mean when you're desperate, then you don't worry about tomorrow and the repercussions. You are only worrying about today. And that means that you steal from family. You'll do whatever it takes to get... It's like a drug addict, right?
Oh, yeah. It is in the same sentence. I wonder why I read it that way.
You're an optimist?
He does depart that. Huh.
Well, there's also the sentence later on when the magistrate doesn't believe the snitch. So that might have colored your memory.
I think 18 was right. That was continuing on with the theme of describing Wally's behavior. He's like, you know how it is. You go too far to get the vultures.
That is the magistrate departs after that, though.
They're still investigating. Doesn't matter. All right, so we can move to the next day?
Well, Shed celebrates, by the way, with going to get, a hooker.
Yeah, he does that often enough that I didn't even think it was important. I mean, I just don't care. He does it all the time now. He's spending all of his money on whores.
I guess what I'm really getting at there is that, I mean, what we're witnessing is like the increased depravity of Shed and the lack of conscience and essentially the fall of his morality, ethics, and decency.
I would argue that part of it is because he put his mother into a separate place. He sent his
now
mother
he's living
away.
it up.
And now there is no longer any conscience left. Like, he was relying on his mom for conscience. And she's out of the picture now.
Huh,
Unchecked.
She's not around. Yeah, he's got no morality anymore. No center. All right, so the next day, a stranger comes by to see Shed about a little blackmail.
A little blackmail. I like that. Lisa's like, hey, you got this guy over here that wants to talk to you.
In private.
And so basically they go back into the kitchen, make sure nobody's around. And the dude's like...
gives him a detailed description and accurate of what he did to Wally. Minus the drive up to the Black Castle, I assume.
Yeah, he didn't say anything about that.
He wants 1 silver a week, and that'll buy some amnesia, he says.
My amnesia works. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I get it. Sometimes I don't.
Memory's
Who knows
a funny
what I'll
thing.
say.
Yeah. Well, Shed's like, well, you're going to have to accept coin in copper because I don't have any more silver. And the guy smiles at him.
When Glen Cook leaves something like that, you're going to get a follow-up later.
Okay, so right now, what did you think it meant?
I just thought the guy was just being petty and malicious because he actually didn't care about Shed or his business or his success. I thought he was just being petty, like, I don't care. I got my leave, I don't care.
When the man leaves, Shed tells Lisa, hey, follow him. There's a bonus in it for you. I'll give you 5 Gersh, copper coins, if you follow him. And if you do a good job, I'll give you 5 more when you come back. And she leaves in a whirl of skirts.
Hey, I had one question. Before, when he was meeting this stranger for the first time, he said Shed's visitor peeked back through the kitchen door. Thought the split tail might try to listen in.
I assume that means some sort of woman thing.
I thought so because only Lisa was there, right?
Maybe she has the hair in the double ponytail?
I didn't understand it.
Look it up. Look it up. See if it's part of vernacular.
I was going to, but I didn't do it.
That's true. So. I almost always do. Well, I didn't this time. Split tail.
A woman or girl over the age of 18 who presents themselves in sexually, morally, or ethically degraded manner. Slut. Easy. Pass-around girl.
Well, he's saying that about her. She doesn't go for Shed's advances in any way.
Would you?
Well, I don't know if I would, but I mean...
If I was an 18-year-old girl and Shed was making passes at me, I think I'd turn him down.
But it's her boss.
I think I'd turn him down. And I think she would, too, because she seems like she's pretty together.
Actually, she does. We'll find that out later.
The buskin, you know.
She's got a good head on her shoulders.
All right, so Lisa tracks this blackmailer back to Gilbert's place, the moneylender. And now, does it start to make sense, the smile?
Oh, yeah, because the guy didn't care about the fact that he was taking money from Shed. It was that fact that Shed had so very little money, and that's going to make Gilbert all the happier.
It's like they're setting him up for failure.
Oh, yeah, and they've already got him once with Wally.
I'm wondering if they aren't the ones that told Wally, oh, this is no problem. You've got this in the bag. They were the gamblers, right?
Yeah.
They set him up so that he would be desperate, so he would steal from Shed. So that they would know that Shed was broke. And when he can only pay in copper, of course the guy smiles because they're just that much closer to the end game.
But, you know, I got to wonder, I mean, what is so amazing about Shed's place? That
He's been fixing it up. It's much nicer than it used to be.
Well, that's true. He has put a lot of money into it. Yeah, all those other things are absolutely true. But even before that, when it was a dump, Craig was interested in it, too.
But they had a buyer for it, so they can make money off of it. So I don't know, man, but they were going to turn it into whore cribs, remember?
Yeah, I do.
Plus, Shed's, he's an easy mark.
All right, 3 days later, Shed visits an acquaintance and pays for a name. He visits the man associated with that name and gives that man 2 silver coins.
So are we supposed to know what he's talking about, or is this a nebulous back shadow deal?
What do you mean? I mean, I understood what was happening.
Look, we can suss it out. We aren't supposed to know exactly what's happening here, but it's all part of this same part.
It's part of the build-up.
And since it's part of the build-up, we're going to get the, oh, that's what that was. Yeah. And it's just a couple pages later or a couple sentences later.
Sentences or so, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. I had to look that word up because I didn't understand what was going on, but once I looked the word up, then I understood exactly what was happening. For a consideration, he received a name. And I was like, that's a weird way to say that. What is a consideration? So I looked it up, and it's a payment.
Well, I thought he was looking for a guy to do something.
Exactly.
But then this is where we get where Shed is actually starting to scheme and plot and start moving his pieces into position.
It's called premeditated.
It is called premeditated, but and here I am defending Shed. His livelihood is being attacked by Gilbert and associates.
Yeah. No argument here, buddy.
A normal person goes to the police, unless they don't want the police hanging around.
Well, there's that, but there's also no justice in the buskin, remember?
This is not necessarily a bad thing that's going on, but, it just shows more of Shed's evolution.
Specifically, he's telling Lisa to tell all of her customers, or favorite customers, about how Gilbert is undermining him.
He's setting the stage so that when inquiries are made, people believe his story before Gilbert's.
Yes.
He's covering his ass, essentially, is what he's doing.
Yes, and everybody knows Gilbert is a slime ball, whereas, Shed is just an honest businessman.
Naturally. All right, so the morning of the next payoff, Shed arranges to not be around the Lily. And he tells Lisa to inform his inquirer that he'll be back after supper. That night, Shed is chopping wood in the alley behind the Lily by lantern light.
The blackmailer comes up and he's like, where have you been? That type of thing.
Trying to duck me?
I'm not trying to duck you. I'm chopping wood out here. What do you think it looks like?
I'm right here, buddy. I got a business to run. What do you...
Yeah, exactly. And Shed's, standing up to him. And then the blackmailer's like, I heard you're a little bit more of a wimp.
From who? Who did you hear that from?
Shed already knew.
He's getting confirmation, and that's exactly what he wanted.
I mean, this was the guy realizing that I said too much in this situation.
Mistake. Shed set this guy up earlier by saying, I don't have any silver, right?
Yeah,
we saw that happen. And now Shed's like, hold on a minute, let me count some copper. Mm-hmm. And he's got like handfuls of copper, and he's counting them out. So the conversion must not be D&D conversion. It's not 10 to 1.
Yeah, it could be
100 to 1 or something like that. But anyway, he's counting Gersh by the lantern light in front of this guy. Counts the second time, and he takes a couple coins away, and he's like, okay, that's the right amount. Hold out your hands. So the guy cups both of his hands, and Shed goes to drop the money in his hands. But instead of doing so, he drops the money on the ground and grabs the guy by the wrists.
And then somebody grabs this guy from behind, and I don't know if he got choked out or stabbed. Yeah.
Well, look at the description, right? It's like this. He gets the hand over his mouth.
Yep.
Like this, and then he arches his back.
Mm-hmm.
Like this. So I think he got stabbed in the back.
Yep, it doesn't say it, but it says, his eyes widened in pain and fear. Yep, and then rolled up. So, sounded like a quick death. Mm-hmm. But think about it. I was thinking about the counting of the coins. I mean, Shed was just stalling for time until that other guy got in position.
Shed's a baller right now.
Shed tells the guy, all right, good, get out of here.
Yeah, he got his 2 silver already.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that deal done. And then, Shed, covers up the body, but then he's, on his hands and knees picking up all of these copper coins. I mean, yeah, they're worth a lot, but then there's only 2 left. And he's still just, crawling on his hands and knees looking for him. I'm like, you greedy little dirt.
As Shed was busy picking up the copper, all but 2 that he couldn't find, Lisa came out.
This is after he's hidden the body.
Shed's like, oh, dude had a squabble with me. We had a little bit of fight, and I dropped some coins. I'm just picking him up. And she's like, do you want me to help? And Shed's like, no, you don't need to help at all. And then they go inside. And he is worried for the rest of the night whether or not Lisa was going to go out and, help, quote unquote, find the coins. But that didn't occur. And then that gave Shed, at the end of the night, the ability to go up to the Black Castle with the blackmailer in tow.
The tall being is back on duty again. And he's like, where's Raven? We miss him. He was really good at his job.
Why do you come so seldom? And he's like, I'm not as good as my partner was.
And he tells the being that Raven's gone.
He said he's out of town. And then the guy chuckles. Why?
I'm suspicious that he thinks that Shed is becoming quite good at his job and getting better.
Oh.
Knowing what we know as the reader, I would be concerned now that at some point they're going to say, all we need is one more body, and then just take a person. And maybe that person's Shed.
It may be. In the last chapter, we're finding out that this is an escape patch for the Dominator.
Yeah.
The lady's involved. The Black Company's involved. and
close to opening.
Every last body.
Yeah.
Maybe the next last living body that they get will finish the job.
Chapter 22, Juniper, running scared. So the Black Company is unable to find Raven. This is somewhat good news, but what isn't such good news is that Whisper wants to talk to Croker. She's frustrated that they cannot locate the main body supplier, and it does occur to me that she's smart enough to figure out they're really good at their job. They almost never fail. They're the ladies' favorites, and when they're here, they're not doing such a stellar job.
She suggests that they're dogging it.
Yeah.
Like, what are you guys doing? You're not doing anything.
On a vacation?
What they're really trying to do is find Raven without letting anybody know.
They are working at cross purposes, and she is noticing. So she tells Croker that 2 bodies have been delivered, one as recently as last night. So that, I assume, was Shed delivering the blackmailer.
This whole section is her downloading data, but also giving Croker a major shakedown for his inadequacies, or seeming inadequacies.
Well, Croker asks her, why not just destroy the thing if y'all are so concerned about it? And I wasn't really sure about the answer. It didn't ring true to me. I just didn't really understand it. She said that the city would go up like a powder keg, essentially, if it came out that all of those bodies that had been stolen and all of the dead corpses had been delivered up there. And I'm like, okay, well, that might be true, but why do they have to find out?
Yeah.
You can still go destroy the thing without them finding out, can't you? Or try.
Maybe you can. Maybe it's just like,
we bought all your dead bodies. We bought all your dead bodies.
No, it's like on Ghostbusters when they shut down the power on the protection grid and all the ghosts like spew out.
Well, maybe it's that, they want this to be a functioning city, and if all the citizens are, I don't know, maybe that.
But how does that relate to attacking the Black Castle? I mean, how are they related at all?
Well, the bodies of the corpses that were supposed to be saved by all these people for passage in the afterlife, they expect that to happen to them also.
No.
Their whole way of life is going to be destroyed.
How are they going to find out? How are they going to find out?
I have the answer.
I don't know.
Okay, tell me the answer.
There's bodies literally stuck in the matrix of the black goo.
Yeah, but the city folk aren't going up there to fight the castle. The Taken are. Croker's asking them why they haven't tried to destroy the castle, or at least go to it and investigate it.
The next thing he says is, I see. And then he says to us, I did a little. It took a certain willing suspension of reason, though.
The long short of it is that Whisper is taking charge of their investigation. She's not pleased with its progress. So Croker goes down the hill. He reports to Elmo. And then he's immediately summoned to go and speak to Bullock.
Yes, and we had discussed who Bullock actually worked for. Did he work for the custodians, which he said he was taken on by them early in his life? And I was like, no, I think he works for the secret police. Well, here it lays that clear he works for the secret police.
His office is in the same building at the very, very least.
But, I mean, obviously he still very highly reveres the custodians and the religion.
Bullock tells Croker he followed up on that idea that Croker had about the wagon rentals.
Bullock was very sharp. Like, what do you think, I am stupid? When Croker brought that up. And then he, at the end of that, at that moment, he was like, I probably will do that, but right now we want to do this.
He did say at the time that it was going to be one of those things that he'd have to get around to when there were less pressing things to do, or fewer pressing things to do. But apparently he got around to it, and it turned up that same name, Asa, again.
Ace.
For the 3rd or 4th time now. That name keeps coming up. So he's like, I got to find this guy. And Croker's like, hey, we can round him up for you. And then we find out that there's a little bit of ill will now between Bullock and the Black Company because they didn't ask about putting any people down in the buskin. They just did it. And he's a little bit peeved at them for doing so. And he no longer trusts Croker, or at least that's how it seems.
It's just like when the feds come on overrun a local jurisdiction.
Every TV show that we've ever seen, exactly.
You'll called it a while back. It's like either a buddy cop show. It's definitely a buddy cop routine, but now it's not. Now it's like they don't like each other. Yeah, it's one of those things.
Well, Bullock says just because we're not working towards the same goal doesn't mean we have to thwart each other. We can still work together. And so Croker goes off to do his business. Chapter 23, Juniper, Interrogation.
Shed had no more trouble with extortionists. Somebody did tell the magistrate that he had killed Wally. The magistrate did not believe it or did not care. Then Bullock's sidekick turned up.
Mm-hmm.
So we know Bullock's sidekick is Croker. So I'm going to refer to him as Croker for the...
Sure.
In my opinion, it wasn't clear here that it was Croker. I figured it out, yes, but then there was a little bit of doubt because of the way the conversation was going.
Me too, at first. I mean, not until later on in the next chapter and whatnot.
He's been referred to as Bullock's sidekick before.
They call him Reverend. Shed does.
Yes, he assumes incorrectly that Croker is part of the custodians. So Croker invites Shed to have a drink with him. He's very generous with his money.
He hadn't had wine for a while, and
Why?
he talks about it making his lips loose. He's got a lot of things he wants to keep.
No
keep
self-incrimination,
inside.
please. None. Zero. His mug is dusty. He's smart, man. He's very smart.
Well, how many times have you heard criminals go out and they do
Blabbermouth.
something?
Yeah.
Then they go to the bar and then they drink and let me tell you about what
Yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Don't talk to the police, kids. All right, so it turns out that Croker is looking for Asa. We get a long story. I think he calls it a song and dance that Shed gives him, which is mostly true.
It is. It's like 95% true. It's beautiful.
It's very well stated. It's clear. It's concise. It's believable. It's almost all true. And then it turns out that this guy, Croker, is also looking for Raven. But Raven's gone. So there's some more truth involved there. And then we find out about the ship again. And we find out that it's a holiday when the first ships go out. And everybody went down. And, he happens to have seen Asa at that time, too. Yeah, it makes sense that Asa got on a boat. He didn't see him do it. But he thinks he did it.
And he said, what about Craig? And he's like, nobody knows what happens. And so he's just spouting off like Buskin rumor mill.
Right.
And he's like, nobody knows. And somebody said this, somebody said that. Which is exactly what a bartender would say, right?
He also says that Asa came and hid there at his place, wounded one day after going out. And then shortly thereafter, he decided to leave town.
It was a beautiful piece of work.
Shed is an extraordinary liar.
It's reminiscent of The Usual Suspects is what it is.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so Croker tells Shed, I hate to do this. And Shed thinks everything's gone to pot. He's busted. He's lost it. This guy's on to him, whatever. And then Croker says, I hate to travel, but it looks like we're going to have to go find this Asa guy. 24, Juniper, Shadow Dancing. Croker reports on Raven's whereabouts to the gang. Asa went with Raven at a guess.
I like this part here. A chicken sweating like a pig and lying like a dog. A one-man barnyard.
That was hilarious.
That's what Shed is. That's how, they know something about him. And he's sweating like a chicken.
Well, yeah, that was a great line, a monumental line. Unfortunately, that it also confused me. Were Goblin and Pawnbroker there?
They have some of the other less conspicuous people staying down in the buskin.
People that don't know him.
We got a hint earlier on that there was somebody that Shed didn't recognize, a new customer that nodded to him and then left.
I thought that was the backstabber.
I don't think so.
Oh, I thought that was too, but no, that makes perfect sense that it was one of the
We're now, in this chapter, we're finding out that they have people down there, living down there, like constantly in there and watching Shed.
I wonder if the murderer was one of the company.
I like how he sprinkles these fools in. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
If it was like a movie or a comic book or something like that, we would know immediately that, that's somebody from the Black Company.
3 of the Black Company have been down there watching Shed.
I get it now. So yes, when we start this chapter, Croker had just finished relating the story about his interaction with Shed, and Pawnbroker was laughing at it, saying, "Yes, what you'll said."
Because Pawnbroker was there watching the whole thing happen.
Was he?
He must have been to know that the guy was lying. He was watching him in his body language, and he's like, "The dude's lying."
Oh, okay. Well, see, that's why I was.
Yeah, but it was Pawnbroker that said all that stuff about a chicken sweating like.
Okay. So there was somebody there besides Croker.
I mean, they're playing it off like they don't know each other, just like Darling and Raven were doing.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
They debate killing Shed. The reasoning would be that it's the path to Raven, and they don't want Bullock finding out, and they don't want the Taken finding out. But it's a little bit too obvious. People in the buskin are going to notice. They've already probably noticed them. It's a little too risky, so they decide not to kill Shed. But they know Shed is hiding something. He hardly balked at the mention of the catacombs being raided, and that was kind of a giveaway for Croker, I guess.
Croker or pawnbroker? Both?
I don't know. Somebody. He's being observed by Kingpin, Sharky, and Tickle.
Those are new, by the way.
The new names to your spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they determined that Bullock is actually the main risk, that he's the most likely person to blow the whole thing open. And they decide that they want to get him headed south after Asa, get him out of town. And it's like, if he finds Asa, he's going to find Raven. And they'd put money that Raven would kill him. And if not, he kills Raven, and then problem solved also.
Let's call it a good bet. It's a good risk.
I would put my money on Raven, too.
Well, not just that. They think it's long odds that Bullock will ever even be able to find them.
No kidding, right? Except that it turns out Bullock once spent 3 years tracking a guy down who was less important than Asa.
And then you get the payoff that we had chapters ago. I'm like, why does Bullock speak the languages of the
Jeweled Cities.
Jeweled Cities? Well, there you go.
He learned it over the course of 3 years while hunting some insignificant petty criminal down.
Dude, oh my gosh.
The guy's a bloodhound. Mm-hmm. He ain't gonna stop.
So they offer this information to Bullock that Asa went south, and Bullock takes the bait immediately.
Almost before Croker was done telling the
was
story
packing.
about where Ace is, he was packing to go.
So good.
Now you know why everybody's afraid of Bullock.
It's like Dirty Harry or any of those things, right?
Absolutely, Dirty Harry. That's a good one.
So the bigger problem is that Whisper, when Croker goes to speak to her for the daily debrief that he now has to give, she wants somebody to go down there with Bullock. So they send Kingpin and 2 others, and they said, stick a knife in Bullock's back if it looks like he needs it. And then we find out that the captain and the rest of the Black Company are only 100 miles away, and Croker cannot wait. He says that it cannot be too soon that they arrive.
He's like, hurry,
Please.
hurry.
Well,
please
yeah,
hurry,
because
please
he's
hurry.
like juggling all these like schemes.
Going in front of the Taken over and over again. He's like, please just give me one level of removal so I can report to the captain and he can tell her.
Mm-hmm. Come on, baby, just one more night. That's what I think about. Is just let me live this scheme one more day, please.
Chapter 25, Juniper Lovers.
Shed's the worst.
Shed is the worst.
He found a girlfriend.
Sue.
Did you know about this? Sue?
Yeah.
And she is relinquishing him of all his money.
She spends crazy.
Oh my god, guys! This chapter was so painful. It
was painful.
Yeah.
This is definitely sticking your foot in deeper.
Then this is what I meant. Like, I think I really liked everything up to this, but this chapter, it was so painful to read this chapter twice.
I will say, however, the payoff in this chapter for me was Lisa.
Lisa steps up. I like that.
I did too. All right, so you guys are right, though. He's fallen in love with this woman named Sue. He's spending way too much money. Within a month of meeting her, he's already in debt up to his neck, back to deeper than he was in the wintertime.
With Gilbert.
Shed determined that Gilbert was making a play to steal the lily from him very, very recently. That was the extortion thing that's no longer bothering him. The blackmailer came from Gilbert.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's borrowing money from Gilbert, and it doesn't even occur to him. He's just in a dazzle from this girl.
Well, not just that, but he had previously was reminiscing to himself that he was addicted to sex, and that was going as a lever. He said a handle, but essentially that was a lever that could potentially be his downfall.
He's not wrong, but it's too close to the situation. Can't see it clearly, I assume. People around him can see it clearly. All right, so he gets a visit from Wally's widow. And she's like, hey, I guess maybe you forgot to pay our rent.
After he killed Wally, he was like, I'm going to make this up to, his wife, Wally's wife and family. I'm going to give them money.
She tells him that she hates to see him in this mess with that woman who's trying to destroy him. But she's already said too much. And she leaves. So Shed goes to get some money so he can pay these debts that he's forgotten about for the last couple of weeks. And he finds that there is no money. The coffers are dry, the secret one and the public one. No money whatsoever. And he's like, Lisa, where's the money?
I saw that. I'm like, oh my god, now Lisa's stealing all of his money.
But she's not. She's not stealing it. She's keeping it from him because he doesn't know how to spend money properly.
This was a beautiful scene.
I loved it. Yeah, she said that he was being a fool, that was Gilbert's woman. And he's like, no.
No, she's a high-priced whore.
Yeah.
She's just doing this to ruin you.
He fires her. He says, get out. You're done. And she says, prove to me that she's not Gilbert's woman, and I'll walk. But if I'm right, I want to run this place.
Dude, I like this girl.
Right.
I like this girl a lot.
Awesome, right? Really, really good.
Isn't there a moment, though, where he's like, man, am I going to have to take care of Lisa now or something like that?
He was thinking that in a previous chapter, I believe.
Oh,
if she found the bodies, he said it would, if the body that was stashed in the alley after the murder,
That's right.
he said it would be a shame to have to take her up to the castle, too.
I'm calling this right now because I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but if this shed touches Lisa, I'm going to be pissed.
Oh, yeah, I'll tear that page out of this book.
You've just got this young person who's got an incredible head on her shoulders, and she sees everything for exactly what it is, and she's trying to save Shed from himself.
Yeah.
And even to steal the money, she's like, I took it.
I'll give it back when you have a reasonable expense.
The people in the Lily thought it was pretty funny when he was like going around yelling at her, like, give me my money.
He was tearing the place up and making a scene, and they were just clapping along like it was a dance. Yeah,
It's like they were all in on it anyway.
Well, I mean, probably when he's not around, Lisa's talking to the people that are around about him being stupid, or everybody's like,
oh, yeah.
Doesn't, everybody, it's on everybody's lips, I'm sure, right?
They all talk. There's no question about that.
Oh, yeah, man. But it seems to me like the Buskin has, the only entertainment they have is the rumor mill.
And watching Shed freak out because he's got no money again.
Yeah, I mean, everybody probably knows everybody else's business.
Spiraling down the drain.
And everybody can see Shed walking on the Cloud 9 and being an idiot.
With Gilbert's whore. Yeah. All right, so Shed goes wandering, and he ends up near Gilbert's place. And he's like, hey, I could just take out another loan. She can hide my money all she wants, but I'll just borrow some more. But that's when he sees Sue, his beloved, walking into Gilbert's place.
What's she doing here?
What?
What? No.
So he slips into the alley around back, which leads right up to Gilbert's office. And there's a window there, which he knows isn't going to be open, but he can hear. We're going to skip the sex scene because it's not important, right?
Let's talk about Shed just for a moment. He couldn't recognize that this person was a whore, and he sleeps with whores all the time.
I read the beginning of the next chapter.
Stop doing that, man. It ruins everything.
Shut up. Just listen to what I have to say, okay? There's no question in my mind that he knows that she's a whore, but he doesn't know she's Gilbert's whore.
I don't know. No, I disagree. It's like you don't fall in love with a whore. You appreciate one.
Shed falls in love with a whore.
I don't know anything about this.
Trust me here.
No, I know he did, but I don't think he knew she was a whore.
Read the next chapter and you will find out that you're incorrect.
Okay, well, I haven't read
Just
the
a
next
few
chapter.
first two sentences and you will find out that he knows.
But now it's right here, right now, that he knows that she is.
He knows she's Gilbert's.
Right.
She's working with Gilbert because they have a conversation. His name comes up. He's ripe for the taking. He got away from Craig. He's not getting away from me. Grease him up and slide him down that hill.
Mm-hmm.
And so we find out that he's in for 18 leva plus 10 more for interest. She's like 5 more leva, and he should push him right down that hill, like you said.
Well, this is devastating to Shed. He goes off wandering again for hours, but he shows up back at Gilbert's later in the afternoon, and he's calm, and he's collected, and he's putting on a show for Gilbert.
Yeah, he wants 15 more leva.
Oh, I gotta have 15 more, just 15 more. I'm getting married.
I'm going to ask Sue to be my wife, is what he says.
Oh my God!
I'm sure Gilbert inside is just laughing, thinking this is the funniest thing in the world, but he still turns the screws on poor Shed.
I don't know if you can handle it, Shed. I mean, I'm worried about you being able to make those payments.
Mm-hmm.
He's all, I can make them, don't you worry. If everything goes right, I can give you 10 next week.
No, he said if it goes right, I'll clear it all.
This is still a risk, Shed, so
I need more than your word.
I'd like to put a lien on the Lily. And Shed thinks about it, or he pretends to think about it, and then he says, well, I guess so. He said, well, stay here, and I'll go get the money and write up the papers. And Shed smiles that wicked smile.
The truth is, I hope this works out for Shed, because as much as Shed frustrates the crud out of me, I hate Gilbert even more.
That's the problem. There's a lot of people that deal with Shed that are real pieces of work, and right when I'm right to the point where I hate him so much, there's somebody that's actually worse than him. Shed's all about blaming, like, oh, I have the worst luck. Why does it always have to be me? He puts himself in these situations every time he gets out of them. He's trying to pay for his mom. He's trying to make this place good. He's just trying to find some love, trying to look nice, this type of stuff. That's not bad, to want to do those things. But the people that take advantage of him are so hardcore.
I know.
And he just keeps getting involved with them every single time.
Even from the very beginning, we were identifying Shed as his vice is women. He even recognized it in himself when he finally got money, how much money he spent. That could be used against me someday. And sure enough.
That was his own foreshadowing.
Yeah, Gilbert knew, that's his weakness. So we'll exploit him there.
I was surprised that he got back into business after Gilbert tried to steal the lily from him through extortion. I was surprised that he would borrow money from Gilbert again. But maybe he doesn't have a choice. If he's going to borrow money, he has to borrow from Gilbert because he's the new Craig. But there were alternatives when Craig was around. He was borrowing money from Gilbert back then, too.
That's true. He said he was borrowing one moneylender to pay another.
It was also told to us that Shed had the belief that money was no longer a problem ever again because he can always fall back on the Black Castle.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother him to take out loans because he'll just find a body or make a body and take it up there. I don't know. I think putting his mom in a cottage was his downfall, personally.
I didn't think about that until you mentioned it, but I think you're right because she was always giving him the stink eye because she knew what he was up to, and he always felt guilty about it.
Now she's out of sight, out of mind. He no longer feels guilty. He rapidly went downhill. His morality rapidly deteriorated to the point where it's no problem to hire somebody to do a murder. No problem whatsoever. It's just 2 silver. Easy.
And that's what I meant. I mean, it's just painful to watch somebody destroy themselves because of their own stupidity.
It is, but
Or
it's
vice,
wonderful. Yeah. It's absolutely wonderful to see Lisa. Her stepping up and doing that to Shed was great. I loved it. I thought that was the best.
Shed is not a member of the Black Company. Should we be reading so much about him all the time? I mean, he is the link between them and Raven, but...
Well, okay.
I'm interested to see what happens with this character.
That is not all that he is, though. He's also the person who is now feeding the Black Castle.
Uh-huh.
And we're watching his moral decline.
Maybe his next victim will be the one that sends the castle into, whatever needs to happen.
Whisper said it could be any number of the next few bodies could be the one that does it.
Right.
Well, it's funny you should mention it because I didn't think about it until you said it, but this is a new character who refuses to leave his own tavern. So how exciting could he be in the grand scheme of things? Well, I mean, so far he's been extremely exciting. So where's the future of Shed going here? Because apparently he plays a huge part in the future pages.
What, 5/9 of a novel to go to find out?
Yeah, we do. I want to say, Etienne said maybe the last victim will be Shed. And if that were to be the case, I think that would be the way I'd want him to go.
That would be fairly poetic. Unless he has a redeeming arc coming up.
That's true. I mean, he might. I mean, there are things.
We're watching the opposite right now. What's the opposite of redemption?
Damnation.
Okay, so he's going on an arc of damnation right now. He's spiraling down to being just the worst piece of S in the world. So if he pulls out of that, and we come out rooting for him at the end of the book, I'd be so happy.
That would be amazing.
Think about this. Shed could be the guy that destroys us all, or Shed could be the guy that saves us all by saying no.
Could be. Right now, it's the toss of the leva. What happens to Shed?
That's right. That's what it is.
All right, so any other surprises, happy moments? We didn't spend a lot of time with the Black Company. It's true. We're spending a lot more time with Shed. But honestly, he's more interesting than what they're doing right now. All they're doing is performing an investigation and trying to keep the Taken off of Raven's trail.
And sitting around.
Playing cards, watching people, yeah, that kind of stuff. Not disappointing, though. All of those chapters were fairly brief, and we're learning a lot of interesting information in those chapters as well.
From an author and reader standpoint, I think that Glen Cook at this point is, I don't know if he's striking out, but it's way more complex storytelling.
Do you mean like baseball striking out?
No, I mean as in doing a foray into something more complicated and complex. This isn't very straightforward. There's a lot of balls in the air. There's a lot of...
Oh, Croker mentioned that they were juggling a lot of daggers, but they were all poison daggers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, from a writer standpoint, I think Glen Cook has masterfully created this suspenseful, very tenuous circumstance where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, very well done. I like it. It's very enthralling.
I agree. 100%. 100%. I love the way that he writes. I really do. His metaphors, they're just wonderful. Almost reminds me of Chandler in a way.
The chicken sweating like a pig, barking like a dog. What was that? Yule, what was it?
A chicken sweating like a pig and lying like a dog. A one-man barnyard.
I wrote that down. And I can't find it now, but that was hilarious.
Well, do we have anything else?
No, I'm looking forward to reading the next chapters, though. Very much so.
Okay, so thank you for joining us. We will be back for episode 5, covering chapters 26 to 30. We'll see you in 9 days' time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, all.